Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and thank you for coming. The fellowship known as Alcoholics Anonymous has, among other things, a whole lot of slogans, we call them. Little kernels of truth that its members can hang on to for the rest of their lives, especially in times of danger. They're little lifesavers that you just cling to. Let go and let God. Think. Live and let live. Easy does it. There but for the grace of God. One day at a time. In fact, easy does it and one day at a time are slogans that you see along any highway in the country on bumper stickers. Have those words on them. And whenever you see that, you can pretty well bet that the driver or someone in the car belongs to this great fellowship. They're wonderful things, but I think that a lot of them have been perhaps misunderstood or misinterpreted. I think every one of them needs a little bit of understanding and perhaps even at times explanation, especially something like let go and let God. But what I would like to do this evening is just make a few comments about the two you see written here. Easy does it, one day at a time. They kind of dovetail and go together. I would just like to pass along a little story I picked up a couple of years ago. A member of the Fellowship of AA went up to a sponsor one time, and he was feeling very, very bad. He said, I'm in a peck of trouble. He said, I have no job. It's all going out. Nothing's coming in. And I was just informed that if I don't have $5,000 by the first of next month, the bank takes my home. Well, then his sponsor said to him the easiest words that anyone ever said to another. Don't worry. You live just one day at a time. 2 weeks later he came up. He said, really, I can't eat or sleep. He said, it's bad now. One more week, my home is gone. He said, I still don't work. It's all going out, nothing coming in. He said, they're going to take my home. Don't worry. You live one day at a time. Well, I said, they just took my home. I didn't have the $5,000. His sponsor said, now worry. This is the day. Alcoholics have one tremendous characteristic that usually is common to all. Lots of pep and no judgment. Set off in any direction, doing anything, and usually trip and fall on the way to nowhere. Well, that's almost characteristic of a lot of alcoholics. They haven't the foggiest notion of where they're going, but they're getting there quick. Now let's switch to the sober life to which these things apply. If there are any alcoholics listening to my voice, see if these thoughts or these questions have ever occurred to you. Because usually when a person gets sober, he wants this sobriety now. You look at someone with 20 years sobriety, I wonder if I'll ever get that. You look at someone who obviously is enjoying peace of mind, this thing that we call serenity. Will I ever get that? I know that I want it, but will I stay sober? Will I ever clear up my debt? Will my family ever love me again? Will I or can I ever regain my own self-respect? Will I ever stop causing pain? All of these good things are now seeable. He knows they're attainable and he wants them. God, he wants them so bad. And he wants them yesterday. And AA always says to the impatient alcoholic, easy does it. AA says to her sons and daughters every day, easy does it. You have to live life as it comes, one day at a time. And the longest journey begins with the very first step. The biggest building begins with the first brick. I mean, these are truisms. We all know these things up here, but trying to grasp them down here. What has happened to most alcoholics through their lives is failure at so many things because they have set out with a whole lot of motivation but haven't done the dirty work to get there. Now, what happens when we do things or try to do things without proper preparation? Failure. Failure. When you're not Jack Nicklaus within 3 weeks, you give it up because it takes work and it takes a stick-to-itiveness to get anything done. Failure always results in frustration. Alcoholics know that from their drinking days. Frustration always results in discouragement. Ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing on God's earth more effective in destroying human maturing spiritual progress than discouragement. You get discouraged enough and you just quit. I must take life as it comes, as everything else in nature must. Doesn't happen that way. We grow a day's growth in a day's time, and AA always tells us, look, easy does it, easy does it, easy does it, easy does it. We live a day at a time. What is a day? Now, you've heard these over and over. Hey, I'll see you a day at a time. Stay sober a day at a time. Day at a time, day at a time. It's everywhere. What is it? And how do we do it? The time of my life is divided into past, present, and future. And you hear a lot of nonsense, really, about how we should look at these three segments of our lives, our past, our present, our future. Even in treatment, have you ever heard a counselor say, well, the past, it's gone, dump it? My past, just like yours, is locked in. I don't dump it anywhere. The only thing I can do is resolve the guilt of the past. That's why Alcoholics Anonymous has steps 4 and 5 in order to resolve the guilt of one's past. But my past is there. Do you see the me that you're looking at right now? I am the result of every single past today of my life. So are you. We are told to forget the past. It's gone. Not at all. My past is important. The only thing really I can do with it is commend it to the mercy of God. I commend my past to the mercy of God. If you are like me, there's a lot of my past I'm very ashamed of. There's a whole lot of my past I'm very proud of. But there is one infallible fact about my past. I cannot change one iota of it. It is there. I commend my past to the mercy of God. You hear a lot of talk about the future that is kind of nonsensical. You ever heard this? Well, really, there is no future because when tomorrow comes, it's today. I mean, you know, that's verbal gymnastics. The only thing that is true of my future is I don't know how long it is. That is projecting. There is a certain rational attitude we should have about the future. The point is, I have precious little control over it, and so just as I commended my past to the mercy of God, I commend my future to His divine providence, that He will watch over it. My present, I consecrate to His love. My past to His mercy, my future to His providence, my present to His love. You know how, if you're in AA yourself, you know how important your past is? AA commands you to recall it every time you tell your story. Doesn't your big book say our story should disclose in a general way what we used to be like? My past is dreadfully important if I can learn enough from it to make intelligent judgments about my activities of today, about providing for the future. For example, if you're an alcoholic, your past should tell you that and nail that in constantly. Your present behavior should say, stay away from slippery places. My past is important. My future is important. The only thing that AA and sensible people try to tell us about the three phases of our lives is this. My past is important, my future is important, but I should not live in the past nor live in the future. You've seen it in people who are brand new to recovery. They live with the phenomenon of guilt and remorse and shame, and it almost kills them until we can get them on an even keel. Others are so worried about what will happen in the next few weeks or months, the present almost goes by the board. I look at my past intelligently and my future intelligently, but this is the day that I have to act in. This is manageable because this is a day in which I make decisions that are perhaps based on my past and will have an effect on my future. Today is the most important day of my life. Every one of us looks at others and we kind of envy them. And yet every one of us builds his own monument to himself. Every single one of us. Now, how do we live today in this sober life of cleaning up all the things that we worry about when we come in? How about financial debts? Your entire AA program is a perfect, classic, textbook case of living by preparing before you execute. You admit you're sick, you take the steps to get well. You enter a room and look at well people, you come to believe you can get well. You make a decision to turn your life to God, you spend the rest of your life doing it. You take an inventory, you make known what's wrong. You become willing to have defects removed, you ask. You make a list and become willing to make amends, and you do it. The whole thing is a classic pattern of preparing before you execute. Now, even some drinkers do that. Very few, but some do. There was an Irish guy about 2 weeks before Christmas. He called a local liquor store. He said, I want a case of bourbon, a case of scotch, a case of vodka, a case of gin, and 4 cases of beer. The fellow said, you must be getting ready for a wing-ding of a Christmas party. No, he said, I'm trying to get up nerve enough to go to confession. You prepare before you execute. Or today's Thursday, we have a free afternoon, I'll put in an hour in the library working on my thesis. Whatever it is, write something down that can be done today. Now, my friends, this is the clue to the whole thing. How you live one day at a time. You have your preparation list. Tiny things, they don't have to be earth-shattering. I will call so-and-so today. Write it down. Now, this is the clue to life. Then, you do it. Then you do it. What happens at the end of the day? You take that tiny little list, I'll write a letter home, and I'll make this and that phone call, and you check off the fact you have done it. You know what that means? You set out to do something, you did it. That's called success. And my friends, there is nothing on God's earth that succeeds like success. But most of us have dreams of grandeur. I'm going to do this great thing. I am not going to be a martyr. I hope not. I mean that. There's only one thing wrong with pain, it hurts. Greatness in the spiritual life means living each day consecrated to the love of God. There's nothing romantic about it. There's nothing unusual about it. There's nothing earth-shattering about it. And there's not a whole lot that's earth-shattering about writing a letter or making a phone call or saying hello to somebody. But if I keep setting tiny goals and succeeding, then my life will be a success. For the alcoholic, the recovered alcoholic, first things come first, don't they? Today may be one of the 3 or 4 days that I go to a meeting. Write that down. I'll go to a meeting tonight. These are the first things first. These never vary. I will read from my 24-hour-a-day book. I will read so much AA literature. I'll call my sponsor. Whatever it is, whatever your first things first are, they're done every day. Then you make a tiny, tiny little list of things to do, and then you do them, and then you do them. My friends, the most important day of your life wasn't the day you went to school or graduated from school, wasn't the day you married or even gave birth to a child, and it wasn't yesterday. It's this day. It is this day. How many of you have ever worked with drinking alcoholics? And the only thing you hold out to them is, nobody's asking you to stay sober for a lifetime. Can you stay sober for one day of your life until we can get you to a meeting? I know that AA teaches that from day one. I think Lincoln once said, I can take anything for a day. How do you stay sober? You don't take a drink, and you do the other things that are essential. And when tomorrow comes, you do the same thing. There's an old friend of mine. I have heard him speak many times, and he always says this. You know, when I first came to the program, he said, they told me that if I went to meetings, said my prayers, and didn't take a drink, I could stay sober. He said, that's worked for me for 25 years. I think I'll try it again tomorrow. There's nothing romantic about living life. We simply do what we're supposed to do each day as it comes. And then as I build up good todays, I don't worry so much about my yesterdays. And I have pretty good confidence about tomorrows. For those of you who are in the AA program, I know that many of you have a little book called 24 Hours a Day. I don't know whether any of you have ever noticed right in the beginning this magnificent, beautiful, lovely Sanskrit proverb right in the beginning. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of existence, the bliss of growth, the splendor of action, the glory of power. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. I'll see you again, one day at a time.